I'm Marek. I'm from Open DeFi DAO, and I'll be talking about our approach to data-driven and evidence-based governance that leverages machine intelligence and simulation. I know that's a lot of big kind of words there, but I think that hopefully what I communicate won't be too overcomplicated. So yeah, as I mentioned, my name is Marek Laskowski. I'm CTO of Open DeFi DAO. If you want to connect afterwards or stay in touch, my handle on both Twitter and Telegram is at regular Marek. And just tell a very brief story about myself. The way I got that handle is I used to teach. I used to teach graduate school. I used to teach data science. And for whatever reason, they wanted us to all create like Twitter handles. So I was Professor Marek at that point, and then I left academia to pursue a career in blockchain. Certainly, much more interesting, right? Much more entertaining, and that's when I changed my handle to regular Marek. So that's how I came to be regular Marek. I spent before coming onto the Open DeFi DAO, I spent the year before that at Block Science, which is a consultancy that many of you have probably heard of. Since then, I joined the Open DeFi DAO to help transition Open DeFi from a DeFi project member-led organization to a community-led DAO, right? And so what Open DeFi is about is we're an incubation DAO, right? That's focusing on cross-chain DeFi that we very much believe is the future. Whether you're kind of an Ethereum maximalist or not, I think everybody kind of has to acknowledge that even in Ethereum's roadmap, there's going to be multiple blockchains, whether they're side chains or rollups or whatever, right? So this is we're sort of getting out ahead of a lot of these opportunities and also challenges. So So the DAO is going to be doing a couple things in addition to incubating new projects, whether they're going to be generated from our community of members. We've got over 15,000 developers and DeFi enthusiasts in our community. So whether the ideas kind of come from within the community or from outside, just through people that we meet and get to know through events like this. We want to help people develop new projects and protocols in DeFi, especially ones with a focus on multichain. In addition to this incubation strategy, we're also going to be providing liquidity and liquidity on new layer ones, new side chains, and new protocols to kind of help bootstrap those. And one of the ways we're going to get the treasury to execute on that stuff is through I would call it next generation yield farming, which I'll talk a little bit about right at the very end. So yeah, but before I joined Open DeFi was a I would say a diverse member-led organization with many of the top DeFi projects kind of up there, and that's just sort of to show the wide variety of member organizations. And how does the DAO work? How does the DAO accrue value? Really, it's through this idea of a virtuous loop, if you will, or a virtuous cycle, where the DAO helps develop new dApps, and through doing that, helps to create new tokens. Those new dApps go onto a dApp marketplace, and the applications on that marketplace help to generate fees and revenue for the DAO. That goes into the DAO treasury, right? And then the point of the treasury, right, is to not just have kind of our DAO token in the treasury. It's to really diversify the treasury, with stable coins and like layer one protocol tokens, right, and so forth. And then that treasury kind of feeds back into the incubation side, right, forming a virtuous loop. So our multi-chain app dApp marketplace, we've got a couple of pillars, or if you will, coming from the venture side, right? It's this almost like our investment thesis, right? It is this idea that the future of DeFi dApps are going to leverage machine intelligence, right, which is sort of like almost like a portmanteau or a combination of machine learning and artificial intelligence. Just using that term colloquially, right, if you will. But definitely leveraging this idea of advanced analytics for sure. As I mentioned, our focus is on multi-chain, different DeFi applications and protocols that sort of straddle multi-chain, right? Different blockchains. I think in the future, certainly, I think the last maybe 6 months has shown that when people that haven't had exposure to the blockchain are not blockchain and DeFi natives. When they come on, they just want the best user experience possible, right? They're not tribalistic or any of this stuff, right? So that's sort of part of our DNA as well. So, the point of the talk, right, is to elucidate a little bit about decision making within DAOs. And this is what I have here is this is a modified CRISP model, and the CRISP model is not something too many people have heard of, but in data science circles is actually pretty famous. The CRISP model is actually pretty famous. And really it starts with asking a question, right? Like so some kind of governance question. And this results in the next step over there is to collect data, right? That people, individuals within the community, think are going to help support that decision. Then some analysis and modeling is performed, right? So this modeling I'm referring to could refer to a machine learning model, a statistical model, could be a simulation model, right, or other types of models, right? And then the results of the running the models, provides some evidence, right? Some other kinds of data, and then there's discussion, right, that happens based on the results, right, of these or the outcomes of these models. You might notice there's sort of like a little bit of a feedback loop, right? It's through this process of discussion, right? People might discover that, hey, you know what? We actually need to get more data, right? We don't have the right data to support this decision, and so there's kind of like a mini feedback loop over there, right? Eventually, there's enough discussions gone on that things can move on to a voting or decision phase, right? And depending on the outcomes of that decision, there's potentially some actions or actuation that's done, right? Maybe the decision's no, right? In which case we sort of go back to the start, right? And then when a new action's taken, that kind of tends to generate new questions, right? Because the sort of the state of the DAO changes, the state of the world changes, and there's this sort of kind of infinite loop. Now, this is really talking about governance, right? And this implies the existence of humans in the loop here, right? Because there's sort of a discussion phase, right? Machines aren't. Well, debatably, right? Machines aren't quite capable of intelligent discussion yet, so these governance decisions, like they kind of tend to be more kind of longer term decisions, right? Like, shall we invest in a particular protocol? Shall we develop a particular DApp or whatnot, right? But you can also imagine kind of operational decisions happening, right, on a much shorter time frame, even continuously, even kind of every minute, right? In which case we'd probably have to remove a couple of these boxes, right? We'd remove discussion, right? And we'd remove, we wouldn't be, voting wouldn't go on. Decisions would kind of happen automatically, right, based on the information coming out, and certainly there would be fewer questions asked, right? So by removing a couple of these boxes, we kind of get to something that looks more like a traditional engineering control loop, right? That can kind of happen completely automatically, right? This is sort of a model for decision making in DAOs. Just very briefly, there's different types of evidence that can be used to make decisions within DAOs. Kind of going from the least processed to most processed. There's raw data, and then you can create graphs and plots and visualizations based on that data. That's probably the simplest thing you can do with data. You could perform some clustering, right, which is a type of unsupervised learning, which really just groups, different things together, right? Just tries to create groups, right? To say like group, different sort of clusters or groups of protocols or whatever it is you're looking at. Then from there, right, then the next most complicated model are things that are either machine learned or statistical models. These tend to be predictive models, right, that use what's called supervised learning. And then, kind of going further down, you also have simulation models, right, that kind of incorporate or subsume or include, the previous types of models, right? So those are among the most complicated models. And then, then you have reports and analyses that sort of take the outputs of all of these and try to combine them and, communicate the outcomes of all this analysis to voters, stakeholders, whoever it is that's making the decisions. So I'm going to give some very brief examples because I'm recognizing that I don't have a ton of time here. So these aren't necessarily DAOs, right? Well, Gitcoin is, I think, now becoming a DAO, but this is just I just want to go over some quick applications of evidence-based decision making, right? Solus is a project that's not. We're talking to them, but they're not like part of the DAO. Just as an example, Solus is building an insurance product to insure smart contracts, and what they're doing is they're taking an evidence-based approach and looking at different data points and information about the contracts, and basically figuring out premiums and these different things for insurance, right? Using on-chain evidence essentially. Bird Money is doing off-chain analytics to kind of inform lending, right? To kind of create a machine learned kind of credit score for people that are doing borrowing and lending on chain, and Gitcoin's also using modeling and different types of AI to detect collusion in their voting system. So even though these two aren't DAOs, like DAOs can face these exact same questions, right? Of like, what is the risk of a smart contract being hacked, or what is the credit worthiness of let's say a different protocol or DApp or something like this, right? So certainly these kind of decisions are going to be made in DAOs, if not already. But not before long, right? The DAOs are going to be making these kinds of decisions. I do want to briefly talk about simulations. Simulations are particularly useful for things like mechanism designs, right? Different voting schemes, which I'm going to actually has on my next slide. Parameter tuning for those mechanisms, and last but certainly not least, right? These models, simulation models, are often good for knowledge translation, sharing, and communication, communicating results to stakeholders. Won't have time to do this, but this is actually a simulation model. If you can go kind of play with this yourself. This is online. This is a live model of conviction voting, right? That probably others will mention today, right? This model was developed at Block Science, where just around the time I joined, right? They were creating this model, and it really just kind of shows and projects how voting power and it accumulates in a conviction voting system. And so our DAO isn't launched yet, right? But when we do launch, we want to put it to our community to vote in whether we're going to be using conviction voting right down the road. And for a community to make an informed decision, right? This kind of modeling is very powerful to kind of let people play with something and really kind of understand it, right? So we won't have time to play with this today, right? But if you want offline, you can go there and check it out and learn a little bit more about conviction voting through this model. Okay, so I've just a minute or two left. I won't talk about on-chain analytics, right? But if you know what this is, right? Does anybody know what this is, by the way? This is Bayes' theorem, right? In statistics, and this can be used to create a very I would say computationally compact type of classifier that can actually be put on chain. If this is something you're interested in researching, this is a side project of mine. We can check that out. So I'm going to skip through a bunch of these. Running a bit out of time. So I just want to say, our DAO is going to be launching a forum on which members can sort of post evidence, right? Can do simulation studies and modeling and collect data and find data and sort of post this on the forum. And the idea being that when we post this on an on-chain forum, people can then go through later and allocate sort of points and credit to the contributions, right? These sort of this sort of modeling contribution and data contribution and data science contribution, and then rewards can actually be issued to the people that are providing this evidence, and to sort of reward them and incentivize them. And I recognize that I'm probably at zero time right now, but we've been doing some math and stuff to come up with an expression for how to assign credit. Definitely won't have time to go over that, but if you're interested in this kind of stuff, I'll be around kind of all day, and you can probably find me and reach out and we can chat. So last words. Moving towards the kind of operational side, right? This is one of our first projects that we're going to be incorporating is an incubated project of ours called Optify. That's a next generation yield optimizer that really what it does is uses machine-directed search to search through thousands of combinations of yield opportunities to find the most optimal one and exploit those opportunities in real time. So it's like super cool. This is the next generation of a yield optimization, and it uses machine-directed search. So we think that's very cool. And I'm pretty much done. Our DAO is working on data tokens as an asset class. If that's something that interests you, also please reach out. We're actively looking for people to take that on. And this is actually my last slide here. This is Open DeFi. Here's how to reach out. Here's how to find the DAO. Thank you very much, everyone.